is happening, guys? My name is Jamie and today we are reviewing Korn's new album, The Nothing. This album dropped on 13th of September 2019 and it's their 13th studio album. And what is more impressive about this album is it's sort of a conceptual album as well. We'll talk about the themes later on in this review, but this is going to be a short and quick review of my initial first thoughts of how I see The Nothing. The Nothing is a very interesting album. It's quite heavy, it's quite gritty, and it's also quite melodic as Jonathan Davis really expresses a lot of emotion throughout some of these songs. I really love the grittiness of the bass by Fieldy, along with Ray's exceptional drumming throughout this album. The drums are very punchy, and the production overall is fantastic, and I absolutely love the production, the overall mixing. What also is so great about this album is how it's so finely calibrated. So there's sounds that really change and really interesting sort of riffs, but at the same time, it does sound like Korn. Fieldy incorporates that really gritty, prominent bass that we absolutely love. Now, one song that was slightly disappointed was You'll Never Find Me. When I first heard You'll Never Find Me as a single, I couldn't hear much of Fieldy's bass. I felt it was all manufactured and it just didn't sound like Korn, in my opinion. But when Cold came out, yeah, okay, I could really vibe to it. It was giving similar vibes, something out of Follow the Leader, like it reminded me of BBK or even Twist from Life is Peachy. So I really enjoyed Cold. And then the song I had definitely heard of, Can You Hear Me? You could really hear the frustration in Jonathan Davis's vocals and the pure emotion. Now I could say this is a concept album. It's really similar to Issues with the really atmospheric vibes you're getting throughout this album. The End Begins. The first time I heard The End Begins, it was like I was back in the Issues era. How there were bagpipes. There were bagpipes coming in the atmospheric tones as well. It leads on to Cold, which is just a really awesome song as well. It really reminds me of similar to BBK from the Follow the Leader era, and also maybe Life is Peachy. But I'm just loving how Jonathan Davis expresses a lot of emotion, but the awesome drum fills by Ray as well, with the prominent bass by Fieldy and Monkey and Head's rhythmic guitars, along with the nice leads you're getting throughout this song. It leads on to You'll Never Find Me, which in my opinion, I don't really enjoy this song as much as I do with Cold and as much as I do with the others. So You'll Never Find Me is good. It's got a nice chorus, and I really love how Jonathan Davis incorporates those death growl vocals throughout the end of the song. Really enjoying the unbelievable, unpredictable, intricate drumming by Ray as well. It incorporates those nice drum fills towards the chorus. It goes on to Darkness is Revealing, a really nice tasty guitar riff by Monkey, and Head is also incorporating those really nice intricate leads as well, which you can't help but enjoy. But I'm just loving the atmospheric tones and how piercing and menacing this song is. It's such a well accomplished song and focused and quite fresh, and it's very different sound to Korn, but at the same time it sounds like Korn. Really loving the hard crushing bass as well by Fieldy. Then it leads on to Idiosyncrasy. Idiosyncrasy is such an interesting song regardless of the lyrics, of the nature and everything like that. Definitely my favorite line, probably one of the darkest songs off the album, and the lyrics overall are pretty dark. Lyrics such as, you hold disgust in your heart, you just fucked with me, idiosyncrasy. You've chose to walk a thin line, replace the hurt without a healing mind. And then what is such one of the most clever lines in Korn's discography in my opinion, God is making fun of me, he's laughing up there, I can see. So overall, this is really giving me vibes of depression. So Jonathan Davis went through so much last year, losing his wife, and you can tell all this anger and build up is just expressing throughout his music. Can't help but enjoy how eerie and how atmospheric this album is. It's very cool song, Idiosyncrasy. I'm just loving the hard crushing guitar riffs as well, Monkey Ahead, but also the soft moments throughout the song. Overall, this song is a very heavy song, and I'm just loving how it just sounds like Korn. So then you get a sort of interlude or a sort of really quick song. Really reminds me of Really reminds me of interludes or songs like For You from Issues. This really goes back to the concepts of Black Labyrinth as well. A Jonathan Davis album that he released, I think, last year. How he's also reminiscing the past towards the listener. This song really goes back to his days of Daddy and how he was molested as a child. The lyrics like skinning me, stabbing me, touching me, licking me, raking me, skinning me. I mean, absolutely disturbing lyrics. Definitely really drives in the realization to the listener of what has actually happened to Jonathan Davis. It leads on to Finally Free, which is another hard-hitting, crush-hitting song, and I just love the overall different sort of elements throughout this song and how hard and gritty this song is. It's very piercing, but yet passionate and quite percussion soaked. So I really love the striking hard hit of that snare as well by Ray, but overall it's such well focused and it's a headbanging song. Then it leads on to Can You Hear Me, a song that is old, that was made in 2014, I think. Jonathan Davis made that song. Overall, Korn really polished this song really well, and by far this is, it's a short song, it's about 2 minutes 50, but it also packs a punch and also goes along with this conceptual themed album. The Ringmaster comes along. Ringmaster's really cool. I really do enjoy this song, but overall I feel that this album is starting to drag on a bit. It's starting to lack a bit now. It's starting to become a similar feeling, become a similar sound on this album, and that is dark, aggressive and heavy Korn, which is alright in my opinion, but something like Serenity Suffering, they really changed it up, like Black is the Soul and Rotting in Vain, Take Me, all quite melodic. So I just feel like this album is slightly heavier than Serenity of Suffering. I think the overall lyrics of this album is probably the strongest. Leads on to Gravity of Discomfort, another nice song, a really awesome heavy gritty song, but again it's quite formulaic as well, and that's just one criticism, where you got verse, chorus, breakdown, and verse and chorus again. So Ringmaster and Gravity Discomfort was okay in my opinion. They weren't the best songs, but then it leads on to track 11, The Harder, which is in my opinion one of the best songs on the album. It's just the overall intensity, the overall lyrics as well, so damn strong. And overall, it's the intense vocals by Jonathan Davis. Just the build up of this song is just fantastic. Leads on to This Loss. Like this Loss is definitely a very experimental song by Korn. I just love the build up of this song. This song's like a crescendo, just builds up and builds up, and it hits hard on the refrain. And when it hits the chorus again, and then there's a sort of a drop. And Jonathan Davis used these amazing vocals, quite distinctive, rich and warm, but he gets a nice vibrato as well. Something I've never heard by Jonathan Davis as a vocalist before. Really conveys a lot of emotion throughout this really soft part of the song, which is just fantastic and just builds up again. And get the hard grittiness of that bass by Fieldy, and the rhythmic guitars by Monkey, and the lead by Head. A really cool song. Korn aren't afraid to show the vulnerable side, and this is showing the vulnerable side with the lyrics overall. So I really enjoyed this album. It leads on to Surrender to Failure, which is something that I think Slipknot were trying to do with My Pain, and I think they failed. With this, Korn have nailed the interlude of Surrender to Failure. It's not an interlude, it's sort of an interlude. It's 2 minutes 20, but it's a great way to actually close the album. Just to let the listener know that what a hell of a ride you just went on. I'm gonna say this is a concept album. I'm gonna say this concept album, or there's a concept themes. I don't know if it's a concept album or not, but there's certainly a lot about depression, a lot about heartache, happiness and sadness thoughts with combining into one, as known as The Nothing. So I really enjoyed the concept. Lyrics overall were very strong in my opinion. This is a step up. This is a step up from Paradigm Shift, but I think it's on the same level as Serenity of Suffering. So I feel that this album is close to nearly as good as Serenity of Suffering. I feel like this album was slightly formulaic. That's just one criticism. I love this album, but there's just one criticism as a music reviewer. It's just one criticism, that it's slightly formulaic. With Serenity of Suffering, we had hard, heavy hitting songs, and we had soft songs. This is just basically all heavy. Get a few interludes as well, and quite eerie, but that overall is just the turmoil Jonathan Davis was going through. I loved it. I love this album, and I gotta put my critic hat on. So I really enjoyed this album. It was fantastic. I've listened about 4 times, and next week I'll probably give you my song rankings for this album of what's the worst song to the best song of The Nothing. I'm gonna give this a solid 8 out of 10. Not as good as Serenity or Suffering, but you know what? Hell of a lot better than the Untitled album. Maybe Korn 3, Remember Who You Are. I absolutely love that album. I think that it's probably as good as that. Path of Totality is dog shit in my opinion. Paradigm Shift was a really good album as well. I enjoyed that. Serenity or Suffering, fantastic. And The Nothing, yeah, it's up there. It's up there, giving me old Korn vibes as well. Throwback to Issues, throwback to Follow the Leader, throwback to Life is Peachy. I just love how Jonathan Davis incorporates and uses those vocals as well, and how Korn are just like a cohesive unit again, which is fantastic. It's so good to see Korn back on this track, and you know what? I absolutely love this album. As a huge Korn fan myself, I think this is definitely up there to be one of the best Korn albums in my opinion. I loved it. It was such an enjoyable album. Just another criticism is, although I gave it an 8 out of 10, I just felt this album was a bit too short. It's 44 minutes. Maybe if you have another few more songs to really have more meat on this album. But this had a lot more meat than Path of Totality. That was a horrible album and had more meat than Untitled in my opinion. Even though I enjoy Untitled, I just feel that I would prefer The Nothing. Prefer The Nothing over Untitled any day. Wow, yeah, this is one of the best albums. I'm very impressed with this album. So guys, I hope you did enjoy this review. Join me in the comments below and let's discuss what you thought about this album. So subscribe, because I'll be doing a Korn The Nothing worst and best song ranking as well, and I will also be discussing my second initial thoughts on this album next week. So guys, subscribe if you want, and I will see you in the next one.